And honestly, the scariest part of this story isn't what happened in the past. It's what happens every single year on February 14th. Hotels are transient places. We check in, we sleep, and we leave. We rarely leave a mark, but sometimes the room leaves a mark on us. There is a room in the historic Hotel 217, the old honeymoon suite, that hasn't seen an overnight guest in 40 years. Management doesn't list it online. The key is kept in a separate locked box behind the front desk. Yet, every year, on Valentine's Day, staff members still find a bouquet of fresh red roses waiting outside the door. No one knows who brings them, but everyone knows what happens if you bring them inside, because in room 217, the smell of roses doesn't mean romance. It means she has arrived, and she is looking for a heart. To understand the fear, we have to go back to the height of the Second World War era. It was February 14th. The world was at war. But inside Hotel 217, it was a night of celebration. A young couple, listed in the register only as the Millers, checked in. They were the picture of young love. He was a soldier on leave. She was his high school sweetheart. They had eloped that very morning. They booked the finest room available, the honeymoon suite, room 217. Witnesses said they looked deliriously happy. The bellhop noted that the groom carried the bride over the threshold, laughing. He ordered champagne and a dozen red roses to be sent up immediately. That was the last time anyone saw Mr. Miller alive. The screaming started just after midnight. It wasn't a scream of argument or anger. Guests in adjacent rooms reported a sound of primal terror. A neighbor in 219 called the front desk, claiming it sounded like an animal was being slaughtered. When the night manager and two porters arrived, the screaming had stopped. The room was dead silent. The door was bolted from the inside. They shouted for the Millers, but there was no response. Just the faint sound of water running. They used a master key set, but the chain was on. They had to shoulder the door down. The suite was in disarray. The bed had been slept in, but the sheets were torn. The vase of roses had been shattered against the wall, but the horror was in the bathroom. The groom lay in the bathtub. The water was overflowing, dyed a deep crimson. The medical examiner would later determine that he hadn't just been killed. He had been surgically mutilated. There was a precise incision in his chest. His ribs had been cracked open, and his heart was gone. But the true mystery wasn't the murder weapon, which was never found. It was the bride. Mrs. Miller was nowhere in the room. The windows were painted shut and locked. The only door was the one the staff had just broken down, which had been chained from the inside. A massive manhunt ensued. They checked the vents, the sewers, the elevator shafts. They never found a body. They never found a trace of her. She, and the groom's heart, had simply vanished into thin air. For decades, the hotel tried to move on. They renovated. They changed the carpets. They tried to rent out room 217. But guests wouldn't stay the night. In the 1970s, a businessman checked out at 3 a.m., demanding a refund. He claimed that every time he looked in the mirror, his reflection was standing still while he was moving. In the 1990s, a maid quit on the spot after cleaning the bathroom. She claimed that as she scrubbed the tub, the drain began to bubble up a thick red liquid that smelled like copper and rot. Eventually, the hotel simply stopped renting the room. It became a storage space, a dark spot in a bright hotel, until the paranormal investigators started showing up. Today, the activity in room 217 follows a terrifyingly specific pattern. It almost always begins with the smell. Those who have been granted access to the room report that upon entering, you are hit with the overwhelming scent of fresh roses. It's sweet, almost cloying. But if you stay longer than 10 minutes, the scent changes. Witnesses describe the smell turning sour, like flowers left in a vase of stagnant water for weeks. It becomes the smell of decay. And then, the mirrors fog. There is no hot water running in room 217. The pipes were disconnected years ago. Yet, the vanity mirror will cloud over completely. Some guests have reported seeing writing in the steam. Others, a silhouette standing behind them. But the most common report is an auditory hallucination, a whisper, right against the ear. If I can't have your heart, I'll take his. But stories of smells and whispers are common in ghost lore. What makes room 217 truly dangerous? What makes the staff refuse to go in there alone? Is the physical interaction. This isn't a ghost that scratches you. It doesn't push you down the stairs. The entity in room 217 wants what was taken from her husband. There have been 3 documented cases in the last 10 years of guests fleeing the room in medical distress in 2018. A thrill-seeking couple broke into the room on a dare. Within minutes, the boyfriend collapsed, clutching his chest. He wasn't having a heart attack. Later, in the ambulance, he described a sensation that defies logic. He didn't feel pressure pressing down on his chest. He felt pressure inside his rib cage. He told paramedics it felt like cold. Slender fingers were wrapping around his heart and squeezing, but not from the outside. He felt the fingers inside his body as if someone had reached through his back, through his ribs, and was testing the weight of his heart, measuring it, seeing if it would fit. Paranormal experts theorize that the bride isn't gone. She is trapped in a loop of grief and insanity, forever searching for the heart she believes was stolen from her lover. She mistakes the living for the dead. She mistakes guests for her husband. The hotel management refuses to comment on the internal pressure incidents. They simply keep the door locked. But if you ever find yourself at Hotel 217 and you see a tray of roses outside a door near the end of the hall, do not pick them up. Do not smell them. And whatever you do not bring a loved one near that door on Valentine's Day, because the bride is still waiting. And if she decides she likes your heart better than the one she lost, I'll take it. Would you spend a night in room 217 for $10,000? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more dark history and high strangeness. Sleep well.